Hello and welcome to And Still We Rise. I'm your host, Christine Seidel, and today we have returning guest, therapist Madison Reed. Welcome,
Hi.
Madison. Thanks for joining us. Madison has been with us before to kind of talk about performance-based anxiety. That's a little bit of like an and/or identity. That's kind of her wheelhouse, is what she's really kind of known for. So I thought you would be an awesome therapist to really kind of talk about today's subject, which is clients who find themselves constantly stuck in therapy. Maybe they have insight into what's kind of going on with them, but they're saying therapy is not working, they're stuck. So I thought you'd be the perfect guest for that today. So welcome back. I'll kind of put your bio in our show notes, but tell us a little bit about stuck clients.
So I have found a lot of people coming into me saying, "Hey, I'm stuck. I've got nothing that I've been able to do." And they tend to be the people that are the most introspective, that can think through a problem better than anybody.
Yeah.
But really, they're the ones that don't quite know what it is to just feel rather than to think into feeling.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, like, they know what their problem is, they know why it's there, they know their childhood wounds, all of those things, but it's still not creating any new behaviors or new actions that they're wanting in their life.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, that is like a big piece of stuck clients is like they really have a lot of knowledge. Like I know I'm anxious. I know I have this type of relationship with a parent. I know this is my pattern that I find myself in. And yet I haven't been able to fix this, or I've tried all these coping skills. Coping skills is another big thing. You know, I've tried all these coping skills, and either my anxiety hasn't gotten better or my relationships, you know, I keep finding the same thing. So, what's kind of going on there where the overthinking or the overanalyzing is separate from the feeling? Tell me more about that.
Yes. So a lot of times it is, I react in a certain way, whether it's anxious or angry, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
is. And they're able to be like, oh, this is why. This
Mm-hmm.
is because this is what my dad did to me, or because
Mm-hmm.
this is my trigger. And they're using it as a tool to understand themselves rather than as a tool to actually cope. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires this ability to feel what you're feeling. Right. Be like, ooh, I'm starting to feel anxious. I know what this is. And now I know how to cope through it.
Mm-hmm.
Rather they're using it as like a reflection for what just happened. And that's where that behavior is not being modified, because
Mm-hmm.
you're still allowing the feeling to control the behavior and then providing the knowledge rather than reversing that order a little bit.
So are you kind of saying like, yes, there may be like this like knowledge of like I know where this all comes from, but in that moment that they're experiencing it, they're still going back to like an old pattern.
Yes.
So there's not this pause or this space where they're taking it to a deeper level and being able to sit with it longer to make a different choice.
Yes.
Okay. So then why don't like coping skills really work with these clients? Like they actually will come in and say, like, listen, I have literally learned every 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's our favorite.
Yeah.
You know, I've tried all these coping skills and nothing has really helped me navigate to a different behavior. Like I can see myself get angry. I can see when I respond in this way, like I don't like it. Like I genuinely don't like the way I feel about myself. Like why is it that coping skills sometimes, you know, when a therapist focuses on that exclusively, they don't make progress?
Yeah, a lot of times it's actually not the skills that are the problem, but the intention that they're using them for.
Mm,
Where they're using it as like, oh, I don't want to feel this way, let's get rid of it.
mm,
Whereas the problem here really is they need more tolerance and be able to sit with the feeling. That
yeah.
coping skill of how can I sit in this, understand what it is, and let my body move through it
Mm-hmm.
rather than trying to fix and cope out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love there's this saying that like integration is really where the body no longer resists two things being true, right? Like I can understand that this is where this comes from and I can choose to do something different. And the body doesn't resist that. And I think for a lot of people who are stuck, they have that physiological body feeling response and they resist it. That are like you said, how do I get out of this as quickly as possible? And that's really bypassing what is needing to be understood. So, you know, are all clients stuck and like really wanting to fix that, because I hear a lot of clients saying, like, how do I fix it? What do I do? How do I fix it? What do I do? And even when I'll give, like, suggestions in the work around getting to a place of like space within themselves, they'll resist it. They're like, nope, nope, I don't. Yeah, like, tell me something else to do. I don't want to meditate, or I don't want to stay with that feeling a little bit longer. So what is that about?
Yeah, I talk about this all the time where I don't feel like all feelings are created equally,
Mm-hmm.
because there are ones that are a little bit more powerful than other ones.
Yeah.
And that's where I think helplessness comes in a lot with this is
Mm-hmm.
I think very few people actually know how to cope with helplessness, and intellectualize or introspective people are the worst of that.
Yeah.
I'm speaking a little bit from experience. Work my own therapist on
Yes,
this, to be
yes,
honest.
yes.
But right, it's this idea that like helplessness is a feeling in itself,
Mm-hmm.
but that naturally creates that behavior of like, okay, what can I do to fix it and to not
Mm-hmm.
feel that, rather than just like creating the tolerance around like this is actually something I can't control.
Yeah.
And it just constantly puts these people in this cycle of like, what do I do? How can I fix this? And
Mm-hmm.
rather than just like taking the space to acknowledge it,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be the help that it needs, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
going into the storm to get out of it.
Yeah.
And of course, that's a very uncomfortable thing, and nobody likes to be uncomfortable in that way. And that's building that window of tolerance in
Mm-hmm.
that out of control helplessness feeling.
Yeah, and I think that, that's just something, that's another layer for us to examine. Like, when somebody is really coming to therapy and they're like, I'm stuck, and yet that which will get them unstuck, they're resisting.
Sure.
That's where I see a lot of like internalizers who are like, okay, but like, so let me go back in and see what else I can do to fix myself. Let me figure it out. Like, what can I do from this over analyzing perspective? And or sometimes we get these stuck externalizers who are so aware of their trigger, they're aware of their trauma, they know where this comes from, but they want somebody else, they want to other the solution, right? Like, well, if this triggers me, then my partner should know that and do this. And so they're looking for this external resolution to the problem versus really sitting, like you said, with the feeling and the insight, and allowing that space of integration. Like, what is coming up in that resistance. And that's, internalizers who are stuck want to stay in like over analyzing and overthinking it, and like knowing everything it needs to know about the trigger and trauma, and like, what do I do to fix that? And the externalizer is like, how do I get others to kind of be responsible for the knowing of my trigger and my trauma?
Sure.
So, and it serves them, right? There's a level of identity that we get in that stuckness that is serving us as an individual.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of those people that, whether you're introspective and that's kind of how you got to the point of therapy, or an externalizer and keep getting frustrated because it's like, why would they just not do this? Because this is what I need, right? I think two things come into play. One, you're giving up your biggest tool of control, which is you.
Yeah.
You're your only thing that you can control in this world, and you're willingly saying, I'll just let you handle that, rather than building this tool and strengthening it. And with that kind of comes, and I am losing my train of thought.
That's okay.
Think about it again. I just get so passionate. I get so excited. But I think that's where a lot of people also realize that like they've found a lot of success in this tool. A lot of times it's not until college age and or later that they hit this wall of like, I'm not fulfilled. Something is wrong.
Yeah.
And it's because it's a high reward skill to be able to think yourself out of a feeling, but you're just kind of like swiping this emotional credit card, and it's time to pay your due. Like, and you hit that wall and you no longer can cope with all the years of feelings. And that skill's going to fail you because it's a body situation that has to occur.
Yeah. And I think that like, we want to normalize this a little bit. Like, I think most people are going to find themselves stuck in this way and at some point in their life, right? Because we are conditioned culturally to constantly be over analyzing, over intellectualizing, like fixing things, solving things, figuring things out. If we look at, like the educational academic system, it's all about facilitating a solution, right? So when we do find ourselves stuck with something that we cannot control, right? Like, we have tried to figure it out, we've tried to facilitate some change, and we are not really in control in a way that is healthy for us. We're trying to control others. We're trying to bypass something within ourselves. That we have to come to this like term and this existential like reality of, oh, I was never meant to just be in this doing, fixing, figuring out mode. That's actually a very isolating place to be when I get stuck, because there's really no solution I can get to when I'm in that over, intellectualizing, overthinking state. It blocks me from a very important part of myself, which is my body, where my feelings kind of reside. So can you tell us a little bit of what happens when we come to a place of allowing our feelings to have a place to integrate with our thinking and our insight?
Yeah, I would say it's a rough process to get there, to be honest, right? Because
Yeah.
ultimately it requires somebody coping with years, sometimes like decades of feelings that they've never really dealt with.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where it gets really intimidating and scary, is because when you let your body just feel it, it's going to be all your feelings are like, yay, it's time to shine. They're coming out. Yeah.
My turn.
When really at the end of the day, it was just road rage, right?
Yeah.
You were just feeling frustration.
Yeah.
But over time, that's where the feelings that you're experiencing can just be situational. It is, I'm feeling angry about somebody, I feel frustrated, my body moves through it, and I move on without flipping the bird and honking my horn, right? And over time, that's where you get more control, because you trust your feelings to come and go as they're ready to go, rather than what you think is best for you.
Yeah. I love that you said you trust that your feelings are going to come and go as they are ready to come and go. And I think that's something in therapy we really honor with our clients, is that we know the feelings are going to come up as they are ready. We don't worry about like, them being in session and this huge trauma that they're not really ready to process comes up. We really do know that their subconscious will allow things to come up as it's ready. And it could be something situational, right? Like road rage, that you're like, why do I get so angry about this? And when you actually start allowing that space, you realize, oh, there's different layers to this anger. There's different layers to this rage, that as we allow them to come up when they're ready, it's safe for that to come up, right? So it's such it's like it's rough work at times, right? Because things will come up, but it's safe enough for them to come up. We have to trust ourselves. Our own feelings will reveal themselves, and also like the space that we're going to with a therapist to be able to hold a container for those feelings. Can you speak a little bit to that? Because I know you do brain spotting, which is an excellent way to start doing some of this work. I do hypnotherapy and ketamine assisted therapy, which allows the regression of feelings, right? Like going to the next thing and then the next thing, what's coming up. How does that really help people who are stuck? So, people who are like, I don't know, nothing is going to help me. Like, I know all these things. How does something like brain spotting really integrate the feelings part of it?
So in my spiel, when people come to brain spotting, I always say we're going to try to create comfortability around being uncomfortable. And so much of like growth is in being uncomfortable, and you have to figure out a way to sit in that to create the life that you want. And that's where brain spotting becomes a great tool, is because a lot of times people will come in with all this content. We're like, I can tell you everything that happened to me and be completely fine. I'm like, but how do you feel? Like, let's pull this back. And that's where brain spotting is a great bridge, is because a lot of people don't have that skill. They don't even know what it is to just feel without thinking and feeling. And brain spotting uses ultimately our body as a way to integrate the thoughts that we've been having and the feelings that we've neglected, and putting them back together through letting your body kind of go through it. It doesn't require talking. It's just you sitting in that and having a therapist there that is safe and with a regulated nervous system to kind of channel off of, so it doesn't kind of blow through this comfortability window that we have established.
Yeah. And I think that like, coming from like a very inner child perspective, I think that like is a form of reparenting ourselves, right? Like to really come with an understanding and like of this insight of maybe something we've gone through, and then, have been able to access the feelings, and as a therapist, hold them with some compassion, that they can have the feeling that is valid for what they experience without any consequences or punishment, and that they can hold it, and the therapist can hold it with them until they're ready to release it. And there's like a level of agency and autonomy that they have in that moment that maybe they didn't have in years past, or in relationships that kind of condition this level of response. And so I think that is such a huge piece of this work is the space, right? The space that you come to, the modality you use. And I think for a lot of therapists who maybe are newer or not as experienced, they jump so quick in with their therapist, with their clients, to try and fix things, to try and figure out, okay, what coping skill, what do we need to do? What's the next step that has to be done? And I think in a lot of the, therapists that have more experience, they recognize how that pushing is actually maybe creating a little bit more stuckness.
Yeah.
So what have you found as a therapist to be, most supportive for your clients that come in saying they're stuck?
Yes, I actually think it's a little bit more of this confrontational style,
Mm-hmm.
right? Again, they've been really rewarded for the system and they need some reflection, like, actually, here's how this is not serving you.
Right.
And a
Right.
lot of times that is just being like, can we pause right here for a second?
Mm-hmm.
I asked, how do you feel about this? And you jumped into content, right?
Yeah.
Can we try this again? And even if you jump into content, I'm going to pull you back down to the feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And even in just the talk therapy aspect,
Yeah.
trying to integrate those two.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where it requires a lot of that rapport.
Yeah.
It's because they've been trained so that they can talk about it. And it's also a lot of times their trauma story that
Mm-hmm.
they want to just say, but that's not healing work. That's
Yeah.
what's going to keep them in their comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of the biggest tool, as well as like any of your basic, like the How We Feel app. I just shove it in people's lives all the time, where it's just like that mindfulness in every day. It doesn't even have to be in this high escalation moment, but like, how do I just check in with my body and how am I feeling right now?
Yes.
And the How We Feel app is really great. I don't know how much you guys are familiar with it, but it can send you a notification. You can check in on your feelings. But my favorite feature of it is it gives you like, where are you feeling this in your body? And you can literally, down to your like pinky fingernail, say, this is where I'm feeling it and here's how intense it is. And so it's a great tool to kind of like slow down. And that's a great way for clients to still be engaged in the therapeutic process even when they're out. Those are my two big ones. So
I love that. We'll put a link to the app in our bio, because I think that's just, it's a great reminder to, like you said, slow down and just sink a little bit more into your body. I think even, clients coming into the therapeutic space, right? Like as clinicians, letting them check in with their body before even starting session, like, what are we feeling in this moment, or how are we feeling in this day, because you said something interesting, people telling their trauma story. And as a clinician, you've probably seen where they tell their story and yet they, might even have a very traumatic, expression of like what they went through, but no affect change, right? Like, so they become somewhat disassociative from what they actually experienced, so I think that's a really important thing as a clinician, to do that kind of confronting of bringing them back to something that they shared and see if they can actually access that in their body. So I love just the compassionate like care of even confronting something and like inquiring a little bit more around what that was, right? What that shift was, what that statement was, how they experienced it, how it feels in their body. But it does have to be a therapist who's attuned, right? And when you get that, how to be in that versus what to do with it, right? Because so much of this is, getting our clients unstuck is not us really doing anything other than being able to hold that for them when they are struggling to hold that for themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's where, again, like I think a lot of new therapists fall into that trap, is because a client requires the safety to just express and it not turn into fixing. Because as soon as you go into that, well, here's this coping skill, that's mirroring what they already do in their everyday. And that's actually what's going to make them feel like this isn't working, rather than just like you being the person that holds it for them and they can channel into your nervous system, all of those things. Like that's going to be foreign. And that's what we're looking for, because that's going to create a little bit of that uncomfortability. That's going to help the new system to develop.
Yeah, and I think that like as a profession, I mean, I know there's a lot of listeners or viewers that are, lay people, so to speak, but there are some clinicians. But I think it's good for both, clients and clinicians to really start recognizing, like, as we step into a space within this work, like, we need modalities that actually get clients unstuck sooner and quicker, so that they can actually afford the care, right? Because we all know therapy is not cheap. It's not covered by a lot of insurance companies. So the more we can do work from this informed place, the sooner our clients are becoming unstuck and gaining a lot more integration in their life, and they're able to take that medicine kind of out into the world. So I highly recommend any clients or clinicians who are listening to this to really check into some of those modalities. Madison and I are actually doing some trainings on accessing more of that implicit state of our nervous system, which is where we hold the memories and the feelings and all the things, where things are integrated. So I highly recommend, that course, which we'll put a link as soon as it's live. But I think it's a great way to start doing this work in a way that clients can see progress a little bit sooner and quicker, because we need the healing work done in this world. So anything else you feel like would be helpful for clients or our listeners to hear?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of for everybody to just remember that, like, I think we view thoughts as being separate from our body, but at the end of the day, like, our body is the host for those thoughts.
Yeah.
And making sure you're taking care of that, because it's the one that's taking really the brunt of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think stress is the feeling that we talk about a lot. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people acknowledge stress has an effect on your body.
Yeah.
Why are we not viewing other feelings as also having that effect of our body? And remembering that, I think, is what can allow the intellectualizers to be like, this makes sense to feel through it, right? If you need that little validation, there you go.
Yeah.
I think that's my biggest thing.
Yeah.
So.
Just like if I were to realize I was hungry, or I was realized I was thirsty or needed rest, I would attune to that and provide for it. It's the same thing that if I have these feelings in my body, they're really there to help guide me into what I need. And so, yes, like if I were going to give, thirst and hunger a response, I can give care to those other feelings. So that's a great point. Well, as always, I appreciate you being here with us today. Madison is just, she's just such a great therapist when it comes to getting to those deeper, more rooted belief systems that are kind of sabotaging the progress we're trying to make, right? Like if we get stuck, we're really trying. She really helps you to do that work in a way that's not so hard on you. Yeah. So thanks for joining us, Madison. If you guys would like to watch another one of her videos, there'll be a link. Please like, subscribe, and follow. We always appreciate all of your feedback. Until next time, we'll see you.
See ya.